Hi, and welcome to Drawing Expressions. My name is Aleesha Sattva, and as you can see, I'm not in my garden, and I don't think I'm going to make it to my garden anytime soon. We are now in the monsoon season, and monsoon season means rain. So that's what's happening outside right now, is we have a nice gentle mist. So yeah, I don't want all this tech outside in a nice gentle mist. We'll leave it inside. Anyways, so I rearranged my art studio to make it into an office for DX. Welcome to our new office space. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different, but before I explain everything, let's take a moment and take a nice deep breath together. So sit down, put your feet flat on the floor, feel your bum in the chair, your shoulders, give them a little bit of movement. Close your eyes and gently take an inhalation of breath and hold it and release. I don't know about you, but meditation makes everything better, and breathing is such an important part of that. So thank you for breathing with me. Anyways, we're going to get started today. I'm super excited. I am using quite a few tools here today. I have switched over to my Copic multi-liners. I really like these guys because you can refill them. And one of the things that I do, let me just reach into my drawer here, is I grab a syringe with a blunt pipe needle on the end, and then I just syringe ink into my Copics instead of buying a new chamber. Why not make it even more user-friendly and more, everything. So that's what I do. These ones, however, are gray. I bought them here in Thailand. You can get them, and so it's a nice cool, a cool gray. I do not know if you can get them anywhere else, but I love these guys. So I'm going to be using these guys. I've got a couple of Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens, and then a few Luminance colored pencils, and a Derwent Color Soft. That's what we're doing today. We're just doing stuff. And so we're starting with a different kind of background here. I am a certified Zentangle instructor, and so I could teach you Zentangle, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to teach you the patterns, but we're going to have a little Zentangle, mindful, relaxed vibe going on with all of this. I have 3 tangles, and I don't remember the name of any of them. So I'll have Carissa add the names as I teach them. We're going to do this first one. I always look at this one as sort of like a feather. And so let's grab a piece of paper. Let's do some tangles together. On here, I'll have Carissa add in the photos of how I prepped this page, but I used something round that was in my garden, just the top of an incense burner, with some water out of my fountain, and then some ink. And I used Ecoline inks, and just to make something interesting to work off of, because it's fun to not always work on a straight, black background. So the first thing that we're going to do is I want to set down my outside line. And it is going to involve circles. And so I want to incorporate these circles that I've laid down in this line. And as you can see, I've locked my shoulder and I'm pulling back with my whole arm, because you get a better line that way. And I want to do this, I'm going to do this a double line. But I don't want it to be perfect. I really, really embrace the wonky, as we all know. And I want to embrace the wonky here too. Oh, this should come this way. Well, now we have a line going straight too. That's fine too. There are no mistakes in doing this. There are only opportunities. And right now we have an opportunity to do something with that piece that's coming down. So we'll incorporate it in later. Right now we're going to work on this particular tangle though. Okay, I want a center sort of line. I'm really wanting to work with my background here, so I don't always want to be going straight through things. I want to take pauses. So something that I want to teach you is the takeoff and landing with Zentangle style. So when you're using a pen and you need to lift your pen off the page and then you need to put it back down again, what we like to do is have you very gently lift and land. So you want to think of yourself as an airplane. So you want to gently land and then gently lift up, and gently land and lift up. And that way you don't get the same ink blops at the end when you're lifting up if you do sort of a gentle undulation of up and down. You're getting the idea, I'm sure. My husband teaches creative writing here at DX, and he did a class recently, Show, Don't Tell. And I love that concept in writing and in teaching. Let's show you what I want you to do instead of telling you. So the weather has changed here. Less air conditioning and more, you know what, my watch is really making a lot of noise. I'm going to just take it off and set it to the side. Less air conditioning. Still need fans on, but oh, it's so much nicer. Such a relief getting out of the really hot season, where we're in the 40 Celsius range and above, into the monsoon season, where we're still in the 30s, but we're in the lower 30s, and it will cool when the rain comes, so that's really nice. And it rains pretty much every single day around 4 o'clock. You can almost set your watch by it. It's quite amazing. But we do get random rain at other times as well. We're in between seasons right now. It's called the shoulder season. And so we are just waiting for the cold season to come again. We have 3 seasons. Okay, so let's do this tangle. So I want to work with the lines that I have coming out. So I'm going to allow that to be my first line. Now the idea is that this is going to, the center part is kind of going to look like a feather when we're done. So the idea is that we are taking lines and we are going from one side to the other. And depending on how big your page is, depends on whether or not you can just draw without moving your hand or whether you have to engage your shoulder. So just keep that in mind as you're doing it. And I've already added in some little sparkles in the background so that I can just incorporate them and work around them. So that's what I'm doing right here. As you can see, I've got my dot and then my dots around. So I'm just working around that right now. Remembering to breathe. Nice deep breath in while you're drawing. Hold it for a second and exhale. Now I don't want to do too much. So I'm just going to do this much. Not too big of a piece. Then I'm going to turn my piece This is not the proper tangle, by the way. This is my own variation, just so you know. Now I'm going to turn my piece and I'm going to do another set of lines on the other side. And I still want to sort of, kind of carry on this feather approach, but I'm really not worried about this looking like a feather, because what I'm going to do is going to make it not look like a feather when I'm done. But you get the idea that this, if you carried on with this same pattern for the entire piece, you can see how it would look like a feather when it's done. And I will have examples for you that Carissa will put on screen for you to see of what this pattern looks like if you actually make it look more like a feather. Because this variation, I just sort of created it, discovered it, happened upon it yesterday, and I'm like, I really want to create this for you. I did one in open mic, actually, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to teach this. And I don't usually teach off of the example tiles that I make. So yeah, this is a bit of a different experience for me. I usually just allow the page to, we call it a tile when we're doing tangles. I allow the tile to form as I go instead of sort of a preconceived idea. And I'm kind of breaking my own rules here by having a preconceived idea. But it's a pretty lightly preconceived idea. I'm not sure how this one's going to turn out. I bet great, because it's looking wonderful. Okay, so you can see how I'm turning my page so that it's most comfortable for my hand. We always want our hand and our wrist to be most comfortable. If they are, you can sit and relax and do art longer. That's where you get into the letting go of pain, letting go of tension, relaxing, being able to maybe let go of what's going on in your life right now and just have a little bit of a break. That's from being in a comfortable position. If you're not in a comfortable position, it's hard to get your mind to just release and go into that space. So try to make sure that you're comfortable. And if you're not comfortable, do what you can to make yourself more comfortable. Because we can't always have a perfect situation for doing art, but we can have a better one potentially than what we have in this moment. Okay, so that's the amount of this line that I want to do. Oops. So, while this is open, these Copic multi-liners, so the center chamber, you can just buy these, right? And you can replace them. Or you can stick the syringe in this end and just fill it up with ink. And you can use any ink you want. I just make sure that I only refill my blacks, and I use a waterproof black. And I have a couple of them here. I use this one because I can get it locally. And I use this one because, again, I can get them locally. Back to drawing. I'm rambling today. I hope you're in a rambling mood. Okay, so now I am going to go from using that to the brush pen. And I'm going to come off the lines that I've already drawn. So normally, if I was drawing this pattern properly, the way it's meant to be, I would go from the center line out to the outside lines on an angle so that it ended up looking like a feather. We're done with that. Now we're going to come from here and we're going to come across, and I'm going to use my brush pen to give myself a nice, crazy, wonky-ish line. Going really like feather light here, just so not all my strokes are registering. That's how I get my broken line, is I go so light that it happens naturally and I don't necessarily make the broken line happen. I allow it to happen. I find it's more natural looking that way. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to allow this one, but I want to have some real pushes on this brush pen, so I gotta work it, baby. Sometimes you gotta work that brush pen. Because I want these lines to create some darkness, some dark value on my page. We talked about that in my last class that I did, that I recorded. But, you know, we want to think about that all the time, right? Is that we don't want, being very mindful with that line. I didn't like the way it was looking, so I wanted to go in and fix it. That's better. I like that better. So you're looking for dark, mid-tone, and light on your page. And so as you can see, that's what we're starting to create, right? So we've got our really light, and then we've got our dark beside it. And then we've got our darker because we're using a background as well. So it adds in. Now I'm going to come up and I'm going to do this one. The brush pen all of a sudden is working a little bit weird. That's okay. That is one thing you have to do, is replace the tips. You can't get around that one. I'm adding in some extra dark lines, as you can see, because I really want this value to be the darker value on the page. So we've got that. Now I'm going to go in with my lightest color of my gray of my Pitt pen, and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to create another level of gray and potentially thickness of line as well. But I'm just allowing the tip of this pen to just dance along the page. So I have no idea how much of a line or how little of a line I'm going to get until it's done. And the more you use that technique of just being really, really light, the more natural that will become for your hand. And you won't even have to really think about it. You'll just always make this nice light, sort of wonky line. Remember to turn your page. Remember to breathe. Nice deep breath in. Let's hold that for a second and then exhale. So if you didn't breathe with me, do it on your next intake of breath. Nice intake in. Let the shoulders go. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to go the opposite way. I don't know how far I want this one to go, so I'm going to start it here and work my way towards So in other words, it doesn't matter where you begin. go. Okay, I know we have a lot of shadows in here. Sorry. Electrician is getting married this weekend, so he couldn't come and fix the lights. I know, right? His wedding took priority. He's such a sweetheart. I'm so happy for him that he's getting married. Seriously, I've been thinking about him all weekend. Okay. Let me see. What do I want to do from here? I don't think I want to. I think I'm going to add a little bit more light line behind here to add a tiny bit more interest in this area. Really gentle lines so it's just sort of in the background, but not much. Just that little bit of line work just pulls it over. And you're not going to see it all that much on camera. I'm using gray today because I wanted to show you, I'll go back to using black in the next class so you can see my lines better. But I wanted to show you how you can use different colors, that you don't always have to use black. Now I'm going to go in with my darker Pitt pen. And I'm going to keep darkening this piece. I'm going with that nice airplane lift off and land so that I get a good starting and ending point on all of these. I don't know if you can hear my skin sticking to the table. Oh, that's the nice thing about having the cloth on the glass table that I was working on in the other classes instead of my desk, is that the cloth makes it so you don't stick. This is what happens when you live in 85% humidity. It's part of life. Okay, so I think that's looking really good. I like the way we've got the darkness in with the light. So the eye is already able to move around because of this nice big splash of darkness. But let's keep working on this. So that's all I'm going to do in there for right now. Now this actual pattern has circles that you put on the side. That's the idea of the pattern. But we're going to do the next pattern that I'm teaching. I'm actually going to use this pen. The next pattern that I'm teaching, which I do remember the name of, Amaze, I'm going to put it inside the little hole, the little circle here. So I'm going to just start anywhere. And the idea of a maze is that you draw a single continuous line without lifting up your pen. Now, if you want to leave spaces for light, lift up your pen and just continue. Don't feel like, you can never lift up your pen again, because rules are made to be broken. I love Pars, that's my husband, says he likes guidelines better because he finds that he can bend guidelines easier than rules. I like that too. So we tend to use the term guidelines now because of okay. Okay, this is how I'm going to end this one. Because then the third tangle that I have is really sweet. Am I going to use this? No, I'm not going to use this pen. I'm going to use the 03. And it is just a C. Here you go bigger, and then you go smaller until you just have dots. And then you can take your dots, you can make it into a circle, whatever. But that's the little pattern. So we're going to do that over and over again. Pretty much. Rinse and repeat. I'm going to take, which one do I want to use? I'm going to go in with the brush pen. And I'm going to go over this line again, but only over some of them. Just to add a bit more darkness and depth and texture to these. So not all of them. You can see just some of them. And then I'm going to come in and just do the 1/2 side of this guy. So that was the brush pen. We've already done the 03. Now I'm going to go in with the lighter of the 2 pit pens. And I'm going to add just a little bit more of a darker line just down the center here. And then just here and there. Then I'm going to go in with my gray Color Soft, and I'm just going to be lightly shading this side. Now, I'm not following any rules today because usually I don't do any shading until I'm done drawing. Apparently I'm not following my own guidelines, which is fine. Meant to be broken. I'm just adding a little bit of gray just in the bottom part of this, and really, really lightly, like super lightly. Yeah, like that. So that's our tangles. Now we're going to rinse and repeat. Now we're just going to create whatever it is that we want to create. In each one, I'm going to fill in these little circles. So I've made the circles like a string in Zentangle speak. It's always nice if you have a problem with the blank page. Just start with anything. Literally, you can just do a line across the page and then just integrate it into whatever you're doing. And this Amaze, it's just shapes. You're not here to make anything particular, so just allow your brain to turn off. And just weave back and forth. go in just with the, actually I think I'm going to go in with the blue and the green here. I'm just going to put them together, hold them together, and just allow them to just make little circles. Do you see this? Really light. And just let them create a blended little space of background here with the two of them. I'm just going to do that here too. I like this. Just a nice little unexpected shape. It's squeaking as I go along. Sorry about that, guys. It's just so light. It's just like barely touching the page. Blending the colors beautifully. And we're getting that gorgeous rounded line. Okay, I like that. Okay, it's weird, which means I like it because I'm kind of weird. Okay, so I'm going to move to this pen. Oh, actually, I'm going to go with the brush pen this time. This one's really, really, really light, and so obviously it's going to get shown up. Oops. But it's very light. So it's a nice light part of the piece. So now I'm going to bring in a darker piece. And I don't worry too much about what this first line looks like, because as you saw, I go over them a few times with different pens to accentuate that line. So I don't worry too much about what it looks like. Like don't get all like, oh, I don't like this. Just go over it again. Add in some darker depths into that line. And this actually is not meant to be drawn like in layers like this. We're breaking all the rules. All the rules, all the guidelines are being broken today. I'm not teaching anything the way I'm supposed to. It's the best day ever. Okay, so now I'm going to do this little guy. I'm going to do a huge, big, fat one. And then I'm going to go in with my 03 and I'm going to create a few behind it. And that's the beauty of this particular tangle, is that you can put a bunch of them together. And it looks like they're in like a little grove kind of thing. And can make them different sizes. I hope you're all remembering to breathe. I'm going to come in with my brush pen and accentuate these lines a little bit so that you can see them a little bit more. Specifically, just the one side so that it has that shaded three-dimensional sort of effect. You can see here, if you make all the lines very similar, it gives it a very flat look. But then if you just darken the one side, you'll see that it changes it from flat and let's now make it look more rounded. Do this center really dark. The ink that I have in this pen is it's definitely, well, no, it's the ink that comes with it, is in the blue tones, and I can really notice the blue tones because of the blue on the back. It's interesting to see. Most of your blacks are made from blues or browns. They sort of go into those tones, and so if that matters to you, and you're doing a larger piece and you want to mix pens and mix brands, make sure that you check to make sure that all of your blacks are in the same family so that they'll work better on your piece. If it matters. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. Just going to go in and I'm going to darken some of these dark spots even darker. This one's so light. I like it, but I wish it was a bit darker. Okay. So I'm going to go in with my, I think I'm just going to, yeah, I'll use this, but I think on this one, I'm just going to put my little organic bits in here. So I don't know what these guys are called. It's the last thing I do before, you know, I start sitting down to teach the class, is go look one more time at the names and try, so that I can remember them for you. Well, today we had to change location, and then I've got a new mic set up, so we had to fuss with that. Yeah, so you don't get names today. Who needs them? I mean, Pretty Organic Thing. That's a good name. I think that works. This one, Line Thing Within the Wonky Lines. That's a good name. And then this one here is just Ramble On Forever. There we go. New names for the Tangles. I'm joking. We won't rename that. Okay. I want to put something in these two. I'm just not sure what. I think I'm going to just mirror back this sort of feather look back over again. Okay, so here, both of these still. Do I want to use the same tangle? I think I do. I think I'm just gonna, I'm really, really, really loving this whole vibe with the lines. I'm really loving that. But at the same time, I really want to keep a maze happening as well. So I think I'm going to work on that and make it look like it's come off the page. That just a little bit in there. Like a maze is a hard one to shade, which is why I like what I did with those pencils, like going back and forth like that. That was really, it added a nice shape to all of this. I'm just going really on the side with this pencil and just adding a little bit more depth into places. Not much, just a bit. Just to darken down those edges. The farther you hold your pencil down the shaft, the less control you'll have. So when you don't want to have control, take your hand and move it farther down and you won't have as much control. You'll get a wonkier line. It's all about the wonky line. You heard it here. Okay, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to shadow this edge so that it looks like it comes out farther than this. So we want this to recede. So I'm just going to take this in and take it a bit darker. Not much, just a bit. Just so that this piece recedes behind everybody else. And I'm going to do that with the same bit. Go over here. Nice. Okay, now I'm going to do it up here. Rinse and repeat. Turning my pencil so that I don't wear it down only on one side. Slow process of shading, isn't it? Personally, I love watching people shade. I love just watching it bloom on the page, like, wow, watch that go dark. That is my jam. I am a shading girl. And if you aren't, then just keep trying. So be sure to like and subscribe and come back on a regular basis and check out our videos. Okay, this is looking good. So we have a few different ways of you learning with us, of you having a DX expression experience with us. One is on YouTube, where it costs you nothing and you help us tremendously by watching. The second is on Patreon, where you can have access to videos early. And you have, I think it's about 35 videos in Patreon, pretty much at all time. And they're all art videos that eventually might make it to YouTube, but not necessarily. Those classes come from our DX live classes. So if you want to attend one of them live, we have right now currently 3 live classes. Jedediah Dorr, Helen Leah Fapard, and Joan Martin. And so if you want to attend their classes live, then you can go and join the DX live level. Everything you only have to pay $1 to get into whatever level, and you can enjoy it. So we want to make sure that art is accessible for everybody. This is about creatives supporting creatives. And so please come and join us. Have fun. Do this at your own level. YouTube for free. Please watch, share, subscribe, like, and help our channel grow. That's it. Thanks. And with that note, I think we're done this piece today. I feel like it's come together a little bit easier because I had the background ready. This has actually turned out nice. It kind of looks like a little forest scene, doesn't it? I'm really happy with this. So this is with gray pens on a white background. So it's changed the look from what we did last time, which was a black pen. But you can see, you can really accentuate those grays and make them darker and darker and darker by shading, by going over the line again and again. Anyways, that's it for today. I hope that you had a good time. I hope that you relaxed and remembered to breathe. And please come back and join me again for another class here in Drawing Expressions. Bye for now.